This is Greg Weeks for the graphics programming final assignment. So I'm just going to walk you through my scene real quick. First and foremost, I have a cool Boba Fett model, and this is actually a multi-mesh, so it's taking in 4 different textures. So he's got a helmet texture, a little tiny texture for his like lighting down there on his chest, body texture, glove textures. Alright, so I've got a textured UFO running around here, as well as this crashed spaceship. And the UFO is sort of emitting light based on, well, I say sort of because there's like another object over here that's actually emitting the light, but it's sort of taking the position of the ship. So I had to get kind of finicky. So the ship is supposed to be like emitting light throughout the scene. So I've got some pyramids over here. They're protruding out of the terrain. And by the way, I have terrain. And as you can see, the normals are kind of weird. They look weird to me on the terrain. So maybe I didn't calculate them exactly correctly because they're not interacting with the light the way that I would expect. But there it is. Looks kind of weird, kind of alien anyway. So guess I'll try to justify it. So I've got a skybox. I've got this mysterious looking planet up here in the corner. Alright, I've only got one light source, so I didn't implement multiple lights. What else? So everything is using graphics objects. And yeah, I think that's a good point to actually start walking through the code to see how I did all this. Alright, so we're going to close out of that using escape. Alright, so let's just take a look at DX app so you can see how I'm actually calling all this stuff. So we're creating some textures here. And by the way, it was a real pain in the butt to go and flip everything and convert it to TGAs. I'm really glad that someone posted on the Piazza that we had to like go and flip the actual like PNGs and then convert them to TGAs. Because of the handedness of Azul Engine, but yeah, that was a pain. So anyway, we're getting textures, models here, matrices, and then finally we're setting up our graphics objects, and these are all graphic object texture light, except for the skybox, which is a texture. Okay, and then right here, after all of these objects are being called, we set the texture material. So we're just grabbing one of these textures, passing it in here, setting the material, and then the material values here. So they're ambient, diffuse, and specular. Okay. So I'm update scene. I'm updating 2 matrices that are controlling the light and the ship. Alright, draw scene. All we're doing is clearing the render and depth stencil view. Then we're just messing with our texture or our shader here rather. So we're setting it to context and then setting the light parameters, setting the fog data, and then we're just setting the world matrices of all of our graphics objects and rendering. So all of that like extra processing is done through the graphics objects. The only little bit of processing that I'm doing here that could have been offloaded to something else was changing the fog data on a per game object basis. And let's see what else. Alright, I didn't make a skybox class. I actually did the skybox through the tools. And I kind of just ran out of time, and I've found it a little bit easier to work with this way. But I did actually have to do all of this, I realized. So it would have been better to make a class. I should have just done that initially, but alas, I'm out of time. Okay, so that's about it for DX app. Just walking through and showing you the demo here. Alright, so let's look at terrain. Yeah, I think that's the first thing on the list here. All right. So, just gonna show you the header and CPP real quick. All the really confusing math to get the vertices and triangles here. Oh, and I found out that if I comment this line in, it like deletes half the triangles. I thought it was really cool. It created like this kind of cool mesh type effect. I don't know. I don't want to comment it in because I'll forget about it. But yeah, it's pretty much just set up like any other game object here, or sorry, graphics objects. But we're going through terrain. I really wanted to put everything in the tools, but I understand now why you didn't want us to do that. Okay, let's see. What else do we have here? Various pre-made models. Right, okay, so let me just go over how I got the Boba Fett model working. Because that's the most interesting one, and it's using multiple meshes here. Okay. Alright, so I've got gloves, helmets, display, and body. So these are all the textures that I'm actually using for that Boba Fett model. And then I'm going into the graphics object itself. I think he's called, yeah, Space Boy. And then I'm just passing in an int for the number of the actual texture here. So body, gloves, helmet, display, and we're just passing it into set texture and material. So we can go over there. Yeah, it's just taking in the mesh number, and because this is set up to work with multiple materials here, and I do have that properly working as a not as a basic C++ array, but a pointer array. So that has been fixed. Cool. Sorry, I'm just going through the checklist here. Okay, model class should have constructors for pre-made models and models from file. Okay. Sorry, I'm being so slow at this. Okay. Take a look at the model class. Yeah, so we're doing unit box, unit repeated texture, flat plane, skybox, and all that shouldn't be in there. Unit pyramid, unit sphere, and unit box faces. The only one of these that I didn't have in the scene is the unit box repeated texture. And I'll just comment that in, and maybe I'll do that in a separate like 1 or 2 minute video, just so you can see that that's working correctly. Okay, let's go to. Alright, model.h. Pretty sure that was given to us. The only thing that I modified was really just these in model tools. Let's go over to model tools. Yeah, so here's just all of my implementations for all of this. I'll just scroll through it. So create unit pyramid, as what that looks like. We've got create unit box faces. So this is actually the one that I'm not showing you. I was having a hard time with these values here, especially for the skybox, because I was trying to not have it so that there was seams in the box. So those values were slightly off compared to the unit box, and it wasn't even because I got it from the internet. Honestly, the brunt of the work of this project was just like getting models and textures off the internet and trying to get them to work, because it was just so inconsistent. I probably could have had terrain working much sooner if I didn't have to deal with like converting TGAs and all that stuff, or if I knew what TGAs to actually use that were included in the project. Let's see. So yeah, the skybox classes, yeah, I just showed you that. Terrain model. Cool. Yeah, so all of this is actually in my implementation, so you can see how this is working. I know you don't want like a line by line read through of how this is working. So if we just take a look at the implementation, look at all the things that I'm actually creating with model tools. So we've got the terrain here. We've got the pyramids here. There we go. So we've got a sphere up here. The wrapping on the sphere is a bit strange because if I can look at the bottom there, it does have like this kind of swirling effect. So that's something that I probably should have fixed, but I was not aware of how to fix it. Yeah, like I mentioned before, the terrain normals are kind of messed up. It seems like they're messed up, but the terrain itself is actually working just fine. Um, what else have we got? The unit box. So I'll go over like the stuff that I didn't actually put in the scene. I'll just like make some new objects and give you like a minute or 30-second video just showing you that all those work. Um, okay. What else do we have? Alright, shader classes and associated HLSLs. That should be very fun. Okay. So shader texture light is the one that we mainly worked on, so I'm just going to go through that one first since it kind of encompasses everything. Let's get rid of this because that's hard to see. Yeah, so we're using the projection buffer, and just we're creating a bunch of different buffers in shader texture light and sending it to the HLSL file. So specifically all of these cam matrices, light matrices, world material, and the fog data. Oh, the fog, right. I'm pretty sure I have fog actually implemented, but it's not really appearing correctly. For the life of me, I can't get it to actually look like fog. But yeah, if I zoom out enough, you could probably tell there is some like actual fog acting on this stuff. It's kind of hard to tell with the lighting that I have, but at least on the Boba Fett model, you can clearly see that the light is sort of coming in and out. So I do have that implemented with shader texture light, but it doesn't look very pretty. And I can show you in the code and just prove it to you that it is implemented through the .HLSL. So let's go look at where is there it is. Looking for shader texture light. Okay, so if we scroll all the way down here, we're actually passing in the buffer for the fog values here, and then we're setting lit color to main texture.sample, asampler input.text, all that stuff, and we're linearly interpolating between these values here. So the fog should be working correctly. It just doesn't look very pretty in my scene. Let's see. Where did I put that fog buffer? Here we go. Fog data. There we go. Alright. What else do we have? So I have mirror in a separate class, and I will put that in the next video. Graphics object classes. Just pop through all of these. Yeah, so everything is working with multi-meshes. We have methods to set the material and world. I have two different set material calls, one for multi-mesh and one for non-multi-mesh. So it just like goes through and sets all the materials to the first material in the event that the user doesn't specify what the mesh number is. But if you do specify a mesh number, then you have to go through all of them. Okay, so texture is doing the same thing. And of course, texture light being the most complicated. We got to go through texture, ambient, diffuse, and specular. Alright. And we've already seen terrain. Cool. So, and you already saw all of those graphics objects working in DXApp. Okay. All right, I think that is pretty much it for the overview of this entire thing. Um, yeah, so in the second video in this playlist, I will go over all the stuff that I skipped, including the mirror demo and all of the tools, just so I can like give you an example of those. All right, that's about it.